I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're taking a bold look at immigration, unity, and the American family with one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite authors. Her name is Margaret Donnelly, and she has penned a very powerful book. It is called Trump, Tamales, and the American Family. In this thought-provoking book, the author challenges the politics of division and calls for a return to the cooperative spirit of the greatest generation. Blending cultural tradition with policy insight, she offers a vision of unity across the Americas where tamales become more than a meal. They become a metaphor for a shared purpose and prosperity. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Authors Tranquility for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Margaret, great to see you here today on Spotlight. Thank you for joining me once again.
It's wonderful to be here, Logan, and to have this interview and talk about my book.
Yeah, it's such an important topic right now. It seems like there's just absolute chaos on the immigration front. You're on the front lines of that. You're an attorney. Tell us what it's been like.
Well, chaotic is really not a strong word in order to describe the situation that we're going through in the immigration front, both for immigrants and for attorneys like me, and also the government. I think people that are in government are having a hard time, which is why President Trump is trying to enlist local enforcement support. Well, there's just a lot. Right now, we have close to 52,000 immigrants in ICE detention. Half of them don't have a criminal record, which is very, very interesting. The statistics are very interesting too, because what I have been able to amass is that 11,000 persons were deported in February, 12,000 in April, which is surprisingly low in my opinion, especially in view of the measures that President Trump is pursuing. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
It seems like the administration is targeting people who speak out, and that's kind of a dangerous trend as well, don't you think?
Right. He has conflicts right now with large immigration law firms. He's having conflicts also with the judicial branch of the United States. The biggest block that he has in implementing his measures are the courts. How we deal with that? The American way, up and down, lower court, middle court, and then the U.S. Supreme Court. Interestingly, President Trump is really pursuing, and it's in a very aggressive way, to stop or actually stop several programs that are going to end up turning legal immigrants, mostly from the that when you think about the 12.2 million undocumented immigrants that we have right now, it's to tell you the truth, I don't know. I really don't know how President Trump is going to deal with this with success. I just don't see it. And just to mention, 350,000 Venezuelans just lost their temporary protected status. And these Venezuelans arrived in May of 2023. A 500,000 Haitians are preparing to lose their status too. 500,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans are losing their human parole protection. That's another program. TPS, temporary protected status, is one distinct mechanism, and the parole, humanitarian parole, is another one. So, I mean, we're facing probably more than 1 million persons who are legal to lose their status simply because President Trump decided to do that, or his people. And I talk about all this in my book. I mean, I have things. I was rereading it, and I was thinking, Margaret, you wrote this book 2020 happening. I addressed many issues that we're confronting right now.
The numbers are so large, deporting hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, obviously, like you said, in this country illegally. It doesn't seem like there is a way to deport them all, if you would even want to. So don't you think some kind of like sensible plan needs to be put into place to perhaps close the door against future illegal immigration, but do have some kind of pathway to citizenship for the people that are here?
Well, as I mentioned before, as you know, President Ronald Reagan ran into this problem when he was in his first term in the presidency. I mean, he wanted massive deportations and found out that the infrastructure just did not support that measure, and came up with the Legalization Act of 1986, as we know, known as the amnesty. And as I've said before, I think Trump is going to run into that same wall. One of the things that I wrote in my book that I want to read, I said, this is the first thing that I'm going to read. In the book, I say, unfortunately, when we are afraid, it's easy to be manipulated into believing strange things. We see support for this claim when we consider the fact that many of us fear that immigrants and asylum seekers are out to hurt us. We convince ourselves that they are terrorists who must be physically blocked from our territory, that they're gang members and the crocodiles under our beds. And that's exactly what's going on right now.
Exactly. They've been demonized. Basically, that's what you're saying. They've been demonized. They're alligators under our bed, however you want to describe it. They are made to seem like they are pariahs that are not welcomed in this country. And a lot of it is to gin up political support in this very, very divided country. Obviously, immigrants throughout the history of the United States have made tremendous contributions to this country. We have a history and a tradition of embracing immigrants. So what are people to do who, have a heart, who feel that the president's going too far?
Yeah. Personally, and as a professional, I think that he's going too far, and it's realistic. I mean, he had some very, very good policies, but in the immigration front, I'm having a really, really hard time understanding his motivation and practicality. In my book, I said not only is President Trump the head of our nation, but his actions and policies directly impact our extended family of the American continent. President Trump's plans for construction of a border wall, along with his immigration policy goals, are like a live grenade lobbed into our family home, promising to tear our relatives and family apart.
Yeah, very, very true. Very, very true. Very insightful, very applicable to what's happening right now in our country. In your book, you also write about the greatest generation and the need to get back to their spirit. Tell us a little bit about that aspect of your call, your vision for America.
I got that uh, mostly from my father, from my dad, who fought in the Pacific during World War II. And when he came back, he joined an oil company and went to work in Venezuela and became instrumental in Venezuela. And we always talked about his generation, how General George Marshall uh, built this campaign, this program, in order to export know-how to our enemies, mainly Germany and Japan. But other countries got help. And what we did was we built up our enemies, and they have become our greatest allies today. And I think that it's indispensable. I was looking at the statistics on the detentions, and the 51,000, 52,000 that are in jail right now in ICE detention. And by the way, ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Most of them come from Central America. Most of them come from South America, which is interesting. And while we're distracting ourselves with the Ukraine, with Russia, with China, which has usually been our tendency to pay attention to, yes, world powers, the world powers, but I think that the countries in the Americas need our attention, Most of the people, like the 500,000 Haitians, Nicaraguans, Cubans, and Venezuelans that are here under the humanitarian parole, come from countries with conflict. There's drug trafficking, human trafficking, horrendous corruption, bad economies, and we need to help these countries address these issues. I think that we can do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we need more than just the simple answer of deport them. Obviously they're leaving their countries because of poverty, usually. So I think if we empower those countries economically, educationally, I think people will less likely to leave, and the situation will, quiet down. How do you propose that we shift from border walls to bridges of connection?
Strengthening local cooperation between both sides on the border. I think it's indispensable that we pay attention to that. I'm not saying open the door widely, no. But, we have to pay attention to our house. But one thing that I wrote in my book is the deterrence of the militarized wall. What we have right now in the border includes fences and walls, dams, stadium lighting, surveillance towers, diverted floodwaters, intrusive signage, landfills, drones, custom-built access roads, staging areas, parking, internal checkpoints, endless vehicular patrols, armed foot patrols, large-scale earth removal, warehousing, and heaps of trash. The local communities along the U.S. border need our attention. They're just like the countries in Central and South America. They need help in strengthening their infrastructure. We need to have a devise a system where local cooperation between both sides is strengthened, is fed, is supported, it's guided, and we're not paying any attention to that. We're not paying attention to the environmental problems that we have along the border, like water, which is indispensable, of course.
Yeah. Absolutely,
That's one
absolutely.
thing that we can do. And we don't have to, fly to Nicaragua or Venezuela or whatever. I mean, it's our house. We need to repair our house.
Exactly.
And I think that the best approach to deal with this massive deportation program that is not going to succeed, it's just not going to. I mean, it needs to be shifted to legalizing. Yeah, we are delegalizing people, like with the temporary protected status program and with the humanitarian parole program. We're dehumanizing them. How can we take 500,000 people with humanitarian parole and leave them in the street when we have no way of housing them, feeding them, transporting them? We have no way. I mean, in this way, I just really find fault in our current immigration policies.
Exactly. Or lack of decent immigration policies, for sure.
No common sense whatsoever. No good planning.
Even if you look at the streets of New York City, they have people warehoused in hotels, feeding them out on the sidewalk. I mean, it's a real mess. A lot of money is being spent, but we're not getting a lot of good return on our investment there. The people look like they're prisoners. And it's really a heartbreaking scene that's being played out in New York City and other cities across America. In your book, you refer to the American family as stretching from North to South America. Talk to us a little bit about this.
Stretching the family, it definitely is very conspicuous. I think stretching the family, we are a family. I say something in my book about how we fat in view of our history. I mean, we were invaded, occupied by European nations, and we act like they were the only ones who arrived. When even today, we don't even consider our indigenous roots. I mean, the Americas was one big continent where there was enormous trade, cultural ties, family ties. I mean, I did a documentary titled "Roads That Bind," and it's about how our current highway system used to be tribal routes for the indigenous people to travel south and travel north. Like Route 66 was one of the main routes used by the tribal economy. So that's what I mean. I think that we have a lot in common. Another problem, it's not a problem. It's simply that we're more interconnected. We live in a digital world, Logan. Okay. When a family moves from Mexico and grows here, they're in contact with their family in Mexico. Like all immigrants. So we're more aware of what's going on. And of course, I mean, it makes total sense that people outside of the United States, they're in touch with us. They're in touch with us and they see how we live. They see how we work. we see they see our cities, like the city behind you,
Exactly.
and they want to be a part of us.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you can't blame them. You can't have an area of extreme wealth living next door to a area of extreme poverty and nothing separating them other than really an imaginary boundary, without those people wanting to emigrate north. I mean, if I was down there, I would want to emigrate north. How do we change the public perception around immigration? How do we get people to be more kind-hearted and more accepting?
Well, I write books. I do nonprofit work. I also have two steady TV shows
Mhm.
that are shown in YouTube. They're directed at the Hispanic community. They're in Spanish. You're my route
Mhm.
to talk to the
Yeah.
English-speaking audience.
Yeah.
I think that the press, and I have told newspaper men and women, both here in Mexico, that they need to talk more about the situation and make proposals. I mean, there needs to be advocacy,
Mhm.
communication. We need to do that. Exactly what you and I are doing. There needs to be more.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you think there's going to be an upheaval in the
I
next
mean,
election?
that's how we do this. Yeah.
Do you think in the next election, the midterm elections, that there will be an upheaval, that more Democrats will come in and there'll be a swing back to the left a
Do I?
little bit?
Yes, I do. I
Yeah,
definitely do. I've heard that from many people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
And
think.
yeah, it's inevitable. The other thing, the other thing that people are not considering are demographics,
Mhm.
how they're changing. And one statistic that in my book, where I say between 2010 and 2011, the number of persons under 18 years declined by 190,000. That's
Wow.
in 1 year, 12 weeks,
Amazing.
by almost a million. So we're going through substantial changes, lower immigration levels, growing levels of Asian Americans, lower fertility rates.
Mhm.
And one fact that I think the government needs to confront is the necessity that we have for foreign workers, especially in the agro sector. 50% of the agro sector is undocumented.
Mm.
That's the last statistic that I found. Before, it's been 75%. So who's
Wow.
going to grow the food?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, who's going to feed this nation of ours if we get rid of the undocumented in this country? What do you hope readers take away from your book? What do you hope they learn from it? What do you hope they change about their thinking after reading your book?
Oh, I think the politicians in Washington need to read my book.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, because I think it's a book that saw it coming, and in 2020, during his first term, I just saw it coming, and I said, I'm not going to be quiet. I need to address the things that I'm seeing, and how we can help our neighbors. What are the issues that we need to confront? Um, let me see. The issues that we need to confront, where I talk about working closer with the border communities, strengthening the infrastructure there. Not a lot of comments, a lot of ideas. I teach a little bit of our history, our immigration history, like with what happened with President Ronald Reagan, because we had a huge influx of undocumented people in the 1980s, and because of the situation in Central America.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. Talk to us a little bit about how your work in immigration law has shaped the ideas that we find inside your book.
With immigrants, I mean, you know, and it's been only immigration, you know, and it's been in all fields. Um, you know, and sometimes I'm not sure, but sometimes I just draw the courage to have an honest conversation with the community and with judges and you know, whoever. Right now, President Trump issued an executive order for what we call a registration requirement. And the registration requirement went into effect on May 7th. It requires everybody who is undocumented in the United States. The procedure is pretty simple if you don't have any problems. But if you do have problems like a deportation, a criminal record, it's not a good idea for the person to do it alone. I mean, that person needs to find a lawyer. It's simply a registration. Now, there are two camps concerning this issue. One camp, it says they want you to register so that they can go and find you. Okay? And the other camp is it's probably the beginning of the legalization program that Trump is going to implement, because he's not going to have any other choice. It's just a really good way of starting the program very slowly, without talking about amnesty or anything. I tell clients, you know, that's what I feel. I feel that just may happen. Now, we have another measure that Trump implemented, not implemented, but encouraged, is the cooperation between ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency, and the IRS to share data, about aliens, like how to find people who have a deportation order, because the IRS records they're updated. And this newspaperman asked me, "What do you think is going to happen?" And I said, "Oh, what's going to happen? They're not going to file their taxes. That's what's going to happen." You know, I mean, duh, you know.
Exactly. If the IRS is going to catch you because you file your taxes, don't file your taxes. It's like a double win in their minds in some way. You know what I mean? It's a crazy system we have in place. We need sanity to prevail. I think your book is a voice of reason in an otherwise very noisy and chaotic world. The name of the book is Trump, Tamales, and the American Family. It is a call to rise above fear and rediscover our shared heritage and our hope. Margaret, thank you so much for joining me here once again on Spotlight.
Well, thank you very much, Logan. It's been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure speaking with you. I appreciate your insight and your wisdom, particularly on important matters like this. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.